Perfect. Good morning. Today is Tuesday, November 14th, 2023. It is 7:30 a.m. in council chambers at City Hall, 1123 West Lake Street in Sandpoint, Idaho. And this is the regular meeting of the Sandpoint Urban Renewal Agency Board of Commissioners. You think I guys know that? I have a script.
We know.
For the record, I am Chairman Eric Paul presiding. Also present are Commissioners Kenan Perry, Marilyn Sabella via Zoom, Tom Bacoe, and Jason Welker. Commissioner Ned Brandenberger is absent. The first item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes from the September 12th, 2023 meeting. I will entertain a motion to approve the minutes as presented. Motion? Commissioner Welker.
Second.
Second, Commissioner Perry. Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
I was waiting for Marilyn.
Oh, sorry.
Are you muted, Marilyn?
No, I'm not, but I'm abstaining because I wasn't there.
Okay. All right. Perfect.
Zoom,
So,
I would.
please note, Commissioner Sabella abstained as being absent. Motion passes and therefore the minutes are approved. Madam Clerk, are there any members of the public in attendance?
One moment while I check. Yes, we have one member attending.
We have one member in attendance. Okay. Before we proceed, for any members of the public in attendance, there will be an opportunity to comment on this morning's agenda topics as we wrap up presentations and discussions on each. The rules for public comment during the meetings are as follows. Comments may not be derogatory in nature against any individual, business, or organization. Public comment opportunities are for comments only. Do not ask questions of the board or city staff. Each speaker will have 3 minutes. Public comment is at the discretion of the chair. Next item on the agenda is the monthly financial report. Account balances are as of October 31st. The downtown account, we have $868,693. Excuse me. And the revenue allocation fund, that's again for our payments, is $94,833.81. The northern, we have $4,494,702.72. Downtown loan balance, $891,912. Next payment due is March 15, 2024. We did receive increment in October and August for August. That should just be October. Please make a note. I have a
Okay.
That August should be removed. $2,089.56 in October for the northern, $11,630.47 in October for the downtown. The art fund balance is $165,833.31. The downtown is $91,300, or excuse me, the northern is $91,388.58. I read that wrong, didn't I? I didn't. Sorry. Silverbach project advance today is $14,840. We have remaining balance of $5,159.78. Do commissioners have any questions or comments regarding this month's report? Would anyone from the public care to comment?
Quick question on that loan. When does that pay off?
2029. That's our expiration too for this commission. No comments, Cassidy?
No participant hands are raised.
Thank you. Are there any other general announcements from the board or city staff? Hearing none, we'll move on to old business. Next update is the downtown waterfront design competition. I will yield the floor to City Administrator Deborah.
Thank you, Chair. We have tomorrow night at the City Council meeting, the final version of the downtown design competition report to the City Council. There aren't significant changes from the final draft that was presented at the last council meeting, but there were some questions and suggestions by council around ADA parking and some of the other issues that really affected more concept elements as opposed to overall major design elements. The land use recommendations in the report remain the same from the final draft, suggesting the development of urban tributary streetscape design standards, which would influence both the next phase of downtown revitalization, phase 3, As the Surrey board will recall, we do have budgeted in this year's budget for design for phase 3 downtown revitalization. The intent with that will be to get at least to Pine. We'll just have to see where funds let us get if it's beyond that. But in addition to that, there were recommendations for the development of downtown building design guidelines, historic preservation guidelines, which our Arts Culture Historic Preservation Commission is very excited about getting moving, as well as zoning around First Avenue and Cedar Street, specifically looking at building heights, building setbacks, and protection of that historic character in the downtown. So we'll be talking about next steps of implementation with the city council seeking staff direction tomorrow evening with the intent of moving forward and with both public involvement, drafting materials for public to respond to in the first quarter of 2024. So, and then we will also be moving forward with, because it is in our budget approved by council, it's also in our SURA proposal for this year, moving forward with the phase 3 downtown redesign. One change I would note that this board may be particularly interested in the Bridge Street Bridge. They had looked at a couple of alternatives with the Bridge Street Bridge, replacing the bridge as is, considering potential realignment of the bridge. And so in this final version of the report, we spent quite a bit of time going back with the engineers and looking at that realignment in particular and what that would require. And we did ultimately get a determination, so it's reflected in the final report, that if we move down the path of a realignment of the bridge, it would be, it is feasible to do that going through the one property at Bridge and First, rather than having to go through the two properties. So I think that's.
The site.
And-
Can you pull the map, please?
Sure.
Do I have a Zoom
Familiar with the whole.
Yeah.
Okay.
Link could do, but I could give you one super quick.
Yeah, I can pull up the visual.
Yeah, I just want to-
That might help.
I'm familiar with it, but I just want to make sure that everyone can see it.
And even with that property at Bridge Street, like there would still be a slight jog over to Church, correct? Because right now it looks like the property line goes right up against, like where the street would be. So like even with sidewalks, it feels like there'd be like a 6-foot jog or something, which I don't know if that's.
They've got
significant or not.
the jog happening. They've got the jog happening closer to the entrance to City Beach.
Mhm.
As opposed, and you can see in the alignment with the bridge, and then given the restrictions with that property, you don't have the width that you do full width on Church Street.
Mhm.
But again, with the concept that they have, that width still works because they're moving pedestrian access below the bridge, not
Okay.
pedestrian multimodal. So you really only have cars crossing on that bridge deck itself.
I should have sent.
Okay.
So Jennifer, knowing that that could be done without acquisition of two very expensive First Avenue properties, how does that affect our plans with downtown revitalization next year, where we are planning to move forward with First Avenue renovations down to Pine Street? Because this probably isn't going to be something we're going to have wrapped up by, July next year, when we'd probably like to be doing some of that First Avenue work, or at least the design for it.
Right, we've had some conversations, and I think that will have to be in this phase 3 design, with the engineers really looking at what is our timing for that west side of First Avenue along that block. We've had discussions about whether you construct that now with phase 3 design, and then as you see redevelopment along that block, they would essentially end up reconstructing elements of that, the adjacent property owners would.
Mhm.
Or do you leave that block and come back and construct that in conjunction with the redevelopment of properties. Obviously, there's some timing here and, you know, we hear from private property owners that they're moving forward quickly with projects and then we're 2 years later and don't see anything moving. So I think that will have to be some of the back and forth conversation that occurs relative to the design.
Well, this, Jason's point, the last thing we want to do as a commission is spend public funds and to have it tore out 1 year, 5 years, 10 years later, because there's a plan that we knew was in place. Also we'd have to look at it maybe with our legals, if we did do something like that, like that First and Bridge where a property owner hasn't done anything, then we improve it, the sidewalks, and then they come in and do something that impacts it. Maybe we have a clawback and they would pay us back for anything maybe, or they have to pay for any damage.
They will have to pay for damage because in
Or
order to
repairs.
construct that, they'll end up having to remove part of the sidewalk. So that's gotta be some of this.
That would, their responsibility.
Yes. Yep. And we have had conversations about that. So,
So it's something the commission doesn't have to really necessarily enforce.
correct, the city would.
And any realignment of the bridge through the, you know, hole in the ground would obviously require either the city purchasing that land outright or possibly doing a land swap for the new parcel that would be created. Would we abandon right of way in the current Bridge Street alignment if we were to acquire new right of way to the north?
That could be possible, but it's tricky in negotiations, obviously, because we need that right of way until there is construction of a new bridge. So,
Yeah,
The cleanest would be to buy it outright.
yes, and probably the best way to do that would be actually through urban renewal. So again, we have talked about creating a new urban renewal district in the downtown core. Because as it stands right now, that east side of First Avenue is not even in the urban renewal district. So with urban renewal as it is right now, urban renewal wouldn't have any ability to do this. However, with the creation of the new district, you would.
Or an amendment to the current.
You can't amend it. I don't think we can amend it past our current date. Oh, you maybe do an amendment to the
Amendment.
annex.
And still have it terminate in 2029. Just amend the.
I don't think
You're not-
for purposes, you're not
gonna
gonna have the revenue coming in to that is actually gonna give you really any ability to do something. The other thing I would note again is when you look at downtown and where there are redevelopments that we know that are coming down the pipeline, timing is always a question. Most of those redevelopment areas are actually outside of the urban renewal district, including the Edgewater Hotel. So, and we know that one's coming through. We have their application now, so. All right, let me just get here and share my screen.
Because once you de-annex a property and that property put into another district, that's now the baseline set. So they have to start all over again, getting tax increment. So if there's no development on, there's nothing happening. So there's no money coming in until vertical development happens.
Okay.
It's zero.
Again, this is pretty obviously high level rough sketch showing this, and I have some more detail that they had sent me when they were looking at actual geometry of this, but you can see where they're picking up the alignment and it's within the one property, the limits of the one property. Originally, the alignment they had was taking about 10 feet from that adjacent property. But challenges with that in terms of feasibility to move forward with it. Now you're talking about having to purchase 2 properties. And in addition to that, when Christine got looking at that, our building official, and we start taking out of that second property too, the feasibility of actually rebuilding on the remaining parcel becomes very limited. It would have to be incorporated into another project. Reconstruction, and we spent with this waterfront competition, we spent a lot of time. There was a lot of technical review and discussion relative to the costs and the challenges of building on this east side of First because of the poor soil conditions. And that's really the balance then, too, in looking at what is feasible for redevelopment along there? What are the associated costs, considering what it's gonna take to support a structure along that particular corridor?
Jennifer, can you zoom in again really quick?
Yeah.
Walk us through the concept of around traffic flow to and from City Beach on the design competitions plan here. If a car is coming from City Beach, would there be a stop sign at the corner of First and Bridge Street, or would this be like right in, right out, kind of keep traffic flowing into and out of City Beach?
This is keep traffic flowing.
So there would be no stop sign. I'm just wondering, like, from a traffic flow pattern, do we really need a four-way stop at a newly aligned, Church Street to Bridge Street, when we've got a concept that might even assure better traffic flow while also, creating pedestrian pathways? Because to me, this potential acquisition of property and realignment of Bridge Street, that's like a 10-year project. We currently have plans to like design, engineer, and build this concept for First and Bridge Street in the next 2 years. I know it's a priority for a lot of people in town to get these improvements done. We've had years of a hole with no, a 4-foot sidewalk, no bike lanes, no plan, no way to really get kids to and from City Beach. If we commit, and this is obviously a council decision, but if we commit to doing this property acquisition and realignment, it's going to be another decade before we see this project completed. That's my fear.
Yep, it will be, because you're looking at your estimates, and they've got those contained in the report for the bridge. Is you build a bridge that is more similar to the bridge that we have today, and they have that concept version of kind of a signature bridge moment. To you build a bridge similar to what it is today in today's dollars. They have that estimated at $8 to $10 million. And then you've got to add your property acquisition on top of that.
But alternatively, we could move forward with design and engineering for this concept for First and Bridge Street down to Pine.
Right, and that
next
would
year.
be part of phase 3.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Including improvements to the city's newly acquired right of way along Bridge Street.
Yeah, that currently is under design contract right now.
Okay.
Because the goal with that was to get that designed and constructed before mid-May of next year. Again, because it's becoming a public safety issue with
Totally.
that really narrow sidewalk that we have there on that north side of Bridge. So yeah, ultimately, this is a council decision relative to priorities, and a decision that is going to need to be made of a move forward, look at this opportunity, or we're going to stay with where we are with realignment or reconstruction.
So from Church South, does traffic not go south?
No, traffic is moving both north and south.
It does.
So
Can
this
you
design-
turn left onto Bridge Street from Church Street here?
Yes.
You can.
And what I would note with this, so this is a different design than what you had seen in our multimodal plan. But our multimodal plan, it was in our long-term concept, we were at a concept. We're still at a conceptual phase here, but it is a much further vetted conceptual phase at this point, because of the time and dollars that we had invested into the design competition. So what I would note about this, with the changes that they are proposing there at Bridge and First, they ran the traffic numbers, they ran the calcs. I mean, this is the concept that's been calculated by engineering groups.
So if you did start phase 3, you would
Mhm.
start from Bridge and go south on Bridge.
We're starting from Church.
But if you're gonna do some realignment in 10 years, you're gonna be tearing up the infrastructure that we put in.
That's what we're saying.
We don't wanna do that.
That's
So why,
what I'm
That's
suggesting.
where
right, so
council,
you'd go below.
Yeah.
Well, it's our we're push back on that, say, no, it doesn't make sense. Because to me, it's like, I mean, You don't know when you're gonna get paid back from it. If they, you know, you do it, then they rip it out. It's like
And again,
infrastructure comes and goes, right?
again, when you're looking at this concept with the bridge, where it is currently, what they would look at doing is where you're seeing that separate deck with multimodal path, what they would do, an option would be to design that so it could support the weight of vehicles. And so while you're reconstructing a bridge in the existing location, you construct that pedestrian multimodal core, and then that switches over for vehicle access, so you retain that, and then you're reconstructing the bridge. Which also, you're overbuilding, over-engineering, overbuilding that, but it also brings potentially some cost savings from moving bridge in pieces. We know we've got to keep that access still to City Beach, so this bridge is definitely access, and how we handle all of that is a challenge.
Just to clarify, what is currently parking for Burger Dock and the adjacent businesses, is that city-owned right-of-way presently, or would this require right-of-way acquisition?
That would require right-of-way acquisition, but we actually met with that property owner a few years back. And so this concept in that way is not so different than the multimodal concept. So again, they started from multimodal concept and then looked at whether there were opportunities for improvement on that. And so basically it's a trade of right of way. And that property owner was absolutely open to that. So we had that discussion about 2.5 years ago.
Pretty tight freeway through here, isn't it?
Yeah, I will just point out that the big truck drivers are gonna lose their minds. They already don't like angled parking, and that's gonna create a bit of a bottleneck, but you know, from a pedestrian bicyclist
Yeah.
standpoint, it's intentional.
Yep,
Right, we know it's designed to keep the long haul trucks that are going north, south, east, west, but the delivery vehicles that come in, some of those, they're large.
And not to mention just the typical North Idaho big truck, you know. Driving F-350 through there, you're gonna feel pretty squeezed. But
they can
again,
still navigate it.
yeah,
So. But it definitely discourages truck traffic. Which was a discussion point with council. And so, and has historically been a discussion point with the community. So that was something they were trying to accomplish with this.
So before we move on phase 3, all this has to be decided. This is what the council of the city wants. They want that look? Because if they don't want that look, there's no reason to even dig into phase 3 until that's all settled. And that could take a month to years, right?
we're also in between an election and a new council taking their seats, so, and a new mayor. So this might be a decision that is left. to
It'll
the
come
new
later,
council.
for sure.
Yeah.
Okay,
We had it budgeted, ready to move forward, but.
Yeah.
I mean, we'll determine.
Yep. for sure.
This is, the report is available, online. If you haven't seen it, it's, on our website. So if you do sandpointidaho.gov/stage 2 design, this was stage 3, but we've kind of kept that page so that you have all of the history, all the former presentations, all the former versions of the report. They're all contained on that page. The design team will be participating in the council meeting tomorrow and presenting. So I encourage you to watch the meeting, or if you have things you want the team to address, let me know and I can talk to them if there are specific questions that this group has to. So they'll be participating remotely for this particular meeting, but there will be a presentation from the design team again. And it will include the engineers, the GGLO, kind of the lead in planning on this, as well as Bernardo Wells. So the full team will be represented in this presentation to some extent. So again, they went back with council feedback, and then we ended up going through one more round of a review, which wasn't necessarily intended with our internal technical assistance team, making sure things were right, we got it. There wasn't something that was missed, so it ended up being a pretty detailed review, even from the last council meeting, although not significant changes.
Thanks, Jennifer. Commissioners have any further questions of Jennifer? Would anyone from the public care to comment?
No hands are raised.
Thank you. On to item 7, new business. We have several items to address under new business this morning. We'll begin with review and consideration of invoices. First item is 7A, seek approval to pay Elam Burke for their legal services. I don't even have a copy of the invoice. Or that one. You have a copy. of the
Right, that's
invoice?
all I.
Was it that one?
If it's on the.
Oh, excuse me, it's
I
next, it's further down.
I can bring it up if it's on.
It's
the
$90,
agenda.
it's $90 for professional services rendered September 2023. A motion to
Motion to pay?
Commissioner Perry,
Second,
Commissioner Walker, second. Any other discussions? All in favor?
aye.
Opposed? Passes. This payment will be made as approved. Next item, 7B. Seek board approval to pay reimbursements invoices to the city for fiscal year 2023 expenditures. Do commissioners have any questions regarding these invoices?
No,
I do.
go for it.
So I understand invoice 1563, which is to reimburse the city for clerical services for administrative support.
Mhm.
I understand invoice 1564 for downtown public art. So for the Great Northern Railroad project, that's reimbursement for engineering expenses.
Yep.
Does that represent our percentage of the total cost of engineering expenses, or is that the total cost that the city paid, because we are allocating this percentage?
It is your portion.
Does the commissioners want other support to document that, to calculate the percentages?
So the total invoice, because our share of that, I think, is what, 60%?
I believe so.
So the total invoice was 6-ish.
I'm happy to get that for the next meeting if you want to defer it for the next meeting.
Or it would have been, total invoice would have been 314,000-ish. If we owe 188, we divide by 0.6. Right?
Right, so if our share of it is 60% of the 3,400.
No,
No, it's
the 188,000.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah, I'd like to see the invoices just for,
Okay,
so we'll table this.
yep,
Okay,
we will get
Table.
that for the next meeting.
so
7D only.
what?
Table 7D only.
Yes.
So I motion to pay invoice 7B and 7C, or item 7B and item 7C.
To clarify, that's invoice 1563, the amount of 1,710.34. That's item 7B. Invoice 1564.3475 for downtown public art project 7C.
Correct.
Correct. Okay. There's a motion to pay those invoices by Commissioner Perry,
Second,
Second,
Commissioner Bocoy. Sorry, Marilyn, Tom got you.
okay,
All in favor?
Aye.
aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, motion passes. And then Jennifer is going to provide further documentation to
Yep.
support the invoices on 1565. Thank you. Motion passes. Okay, we approve. Final item on the agenda is the updated iCrimp subscription agreement. iCrimp, for us, we don't have any assets other than cash. Essentially, our payment into iCrimp is our heir to the missionist award. So a motion to accept.
move to accept?
Commissioner
Second,
Bocoy, Commissioner Walker, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Motion passes. This agreement will be signed on behalf of the agency. No further business on the agenda. The meeting is adjourned at 7:59 AM. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.